Hello Mystery Tackle Box fans, my name is Natalie Dillon and I am a fisherman out of the great state of Minnesota and also the creator of the YouTube channel NattieUpNorth. Now I'm kind of a multi-species gal these days, but I gotta say my bread and butter is really musky fishing. And today I'm gonna be fishing out of my kayak and I'm gonna be using primarily 3 different musky baits that are available right now on Shop Karl's. I'm gonna be starting with a whopper plopper, a big one, the 190. Then I'm gonna be using a spinnerbait by Northland Fishing Tackle. And then lastly, I'll throw on a softtail glide bait made by Phantom Lures. Now, I know a lot of you are not musky fishermen, but please stick with me. I can promise you muskies are some of the biggest, baddest, coolest freshwater fish in the lakes and rivers of North America. I'm really excited to show you a little bit about musky fishing today and maybe even hopefully get one boated for you. Once I get on the water, I'll show you more about the baits, why I'm using them, how I use them, and why the muskies love them. For now, I'm gonna get the kayak unloaded off my car, get on the water, and I'll see you out there. All right, everybody, well, I have made it out onto the water. And if you can't tell by the hat and the amount of layers I'm wearing, it's a little bit chilly here in Minnesota. In terms of my strategy, I believe right now the fish are probably gonna be moving up towards shore because it is that first drop off. In a little bit here, the fish will be moving out deeper. But for right now, I think I'm gonna see them probably anywhere between like 5-6 feet and even right up against shoreline. So you'll see today, I'm gonna be fishing some like shallow structure, some shallow weed lines, a little bit of sand and even some low-lying trees and things like that. As I said, I'm gonna start here with this whopper plopper. This is the 190. I believe it is the biggest whopper plopper that they have on the market. And today is actually my first time using this size. I've usually used a size down a little bit, but this right here is perfect for musky fishing. You know, I like to use topwater a lot. I think a lot of people would agree for really any species, topwater is one of the coolest way to catch fish. Not only is it really effective, but it's also really fun to see any type of species blow up on top. So I'm certainly hoping for that today. Typically I use topwater most in like warmer conditions, typically in the summer, but I've had luck on it, you know, for multiple species in the spring and in the fall. So I'm certainly not writing it out today. Another thing that I have going for me with this whopper plopper is the conditions that I'm currently experiencing. I love using topwater in low light. And so typically, you know, early morning, late evening, and especially when it's a little bit calmer out. So as you can see by looking around me, there's not a whole lot of wind, probably like 5-6 miles an hour, which is pretty perfect. So this looks pretty money topwater conditions right now. This is only my second time on the lake and I haven't fished this spot, but I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna try sitting down in my kayak right now, but I might be standing up in a little bit here. Now today I'm gonna be working this bait pretty slowly. A lot of topwater baits have kind of a sweet spot, especially these prop baits, with where they really run best. If you notice, if you run them too fast, they start to kind of twirl, and that's not really what you're looking for. So I'm gonna be working this pretty slowly today, and I might need to stand up a little bit in the kayak. So as you can see, this is a prop style topwater bait with the tail here that rotates. And this is probably my favorite style of topwater bait to throw for muskies. I will throw some kind of walk the dog, more like spook type baits, some flap tails and things like that. But you really can't beat, in my opinion, the prop bait in terms of really drumming up the most attention on the surface of the water. So that's really what I primarily use. So this bait here is right in my wheelhouse. Now, as you'll see, I am working this bait pretty slowly. And a big reason for that is the temperatures. Typically, I like to work really with any type of bait. The cooler the temperature is, typically I'm gonna be slowing it down a little bit. The fish slow down, you want your bait to slow down as well. If this was kind of a hot midsummer day, I would definitely work this bait a little bit faster. But I'm gonna see how this works for me today. Something to keep in mind too when you're using these topwater baits, sometimes they're pretty heavy, so when you cast them, sometimes they will sink a little bit. And you'll notice, as you can, I don't know if you can see that right now, but it's really underneath the surface of the water. If you keep pulling, it just kind of stays there. But if you actually give it a little pause, it'll float back up to the surface of the water and it'll start moving again. All right, well, I just came out kind of in that first little bait that I started in, and I'm gonna be working a little bit of a weed line here. So I decided to switch things up and throw on this spinner bait right away. So this is a bionic bucktail by Northland Fishing Tackle. And as you can see, pretty traditional spinner bait. It's got this really long kind of deep V blade, which I like a lot. It definitely helps you to get, to work through weeds pretty well. You know, spinner baits I think are often an underutilized bait when it comes to musky fishing. We do a lot of like single and double bladed bucktails. Don't get me wrong, I love double bladed bucktails. They're probably one of my favorite baits to throw, but they can be a little bit finicky. If you get a little weed on them, or really like any fleck of anything, it'll stop the blades from twirling around one another. And so a spinner bait's a really great option that's going to be kind of a similar presentation to that, but it's something that you can really drag through weeds. So it's one of my favorite baits to work when I'm working, you know, the outside or inside edge of weed lines. And you can even really chuck it right in the mix and it should pull through really, really pretty well. But if you are musky fishing, I definitely recommend using very minimum 7.5 medium heavy rod. But if you're trying to invest in your first musky setup, even an 8.5 extra heavy rod is a good option. I've got 80-pound braid on right now. Typically what I use is actually 100-pound Max Quattro, but I've got 80-pound master braid on right now, which should hold up pretty well. All right, so giving the spinner bait a whirl, I'm gonna be working this little dock here, and then there's some weeds just in front of me a little bit. Yeah, like there's just a bunch of weeds in front of me, and I'm really working the outside edge of them, but just there, you probably couldn't tell, but I just pulled through a bunch of weeds, moved through super smooth, and the bait doesn't lose any of its action. All right, well, I'm gonna go with another bait change already. I've given the top water and the spinner bait a good go. Both these baits looked awesome in the water. Just with the current conditions and kind of my gut feeling right now, I'm gonna throw on that glide bait. So in order to do that, I've been using a fluoro leader, but I'm gonna put on a wire leader. Really, when you're using like jerk baits and glide baits, it's the best way to get the appropriate action out of your bait. So I'm gonna take this leader off. We really always, by the way, use leaders with musky fishing. Almost always, I should say. Muskies, if you haven't seen them, they've got some teeth on them. So if you're not using a leader, they're gonna often break off. I mean, you can get lucky and people land muskies on bass gear all the time, but if you want your best shot, you're definitely gonna wanna use a leader. Plus, we switch baits around so much that makes it pretty easy just to be able to clip them on and off and not have to retie all the time. So that's a bonus. As I said, this is a Softail glide bait by Phantom Lures. It gets the name Softail from this little Softail right here. These baits are awesome, really year-round. I especially love it for cold weather. It's one of my very favorite baits to throw early in the spring and also this time of year too. Now, something that's I feel like kind of a common misconception is people often refer to glide baits and jerk baits kind of interchangeably, and it's not totally wrong. This is definitely kind of a jerk bait, but you know, really with jerk baits, typically the motion is going to be more of a rise and fall. You know, you're going to give it a twitch with your rod, it's gonna fall down, and then when you pause, it's going to rise up. Whereas these glide baits are going to be more of a walk the dog kind of back and forth motion, and I'll try to get that on camera for you in just a few minutes here. But these are really cool baits. As I said, they kind of go back and forth, and they simulate like a struggling fish. These baits are internally weighted. They are weighted and they're kind of front heavy. Makes it super easy, by the way, to cast them like a mile. This is a really user-friendly bait to use, especially if you're kind of getting used to jerk baits and glide baits for the first time. And with this type of bait, you know, it takes a little bit getting used to. Every bait's a little bit different. But I typically like kind of some gentle flicks with my wrist, and you just kind of have to adjust it and kind of watch it and make sure it looks right to you. With any baits like this, I recommend not getting too stuck in your ways. You want to switch your cadence up, work it a little bit slower, work it a little bit faster, kind of try things out, not get in too much of a rhythm. And also keep in mind, these baits are really well made. They're really well designed, and you want to kind of allow them to do what they want to do. You don't want to overwork them in a sense. So I like to kind of give them a jerk and almost give them a little bit of line back, kind of like how you would for a frog. It's a little bit different, but definitely leave a little bit of slack line in there and kind of let this bait do its thing. It moves really beautifully. It's super erratic. It's fun to watch, and it gets the muskies pretty hungry. So it's, you know, if you're starting on glide baits, this phantom one's a really great one to use. As I said, it's user friendly. But it takes just kind of a little bit of getting used to, a little bit of trial and error as well. So I'll kind of show this and talk to you about it more as I use it here today. All right, glide bait, let's do it up. I mean, this is gonna get eaten today, folks. So I should point out too, I didn't before, but these have a lot of flash to them. So as you can see, it's got this nice, you know, they're all come in different color patterns, of course, but they all have this nice kind of belly flash that really catches the light well. You got kind of that nice erratic side to side motion. It looks a little bit different when it's not right up next to the boat here. But that's the general idea. And again, it's something that you can really kind of like play with and practice. Now with this bait, oftentimes you'll see it get hit when it's not moving. So when you pause it, that's oftentimes when a muskie will grab a hold of it. So you'll go to jerk it again, and it'll feel like you're setting it into a wall, and that means a muskie's on. So that's a pretty cool feeling. So what I said about kind of giving it the slack line, again, these baits are pretty good on their own. You want to kind of let them work the way they want to work and not try to do too much with them. So as you can see, I am leaving a little bit of slack line, but you don't want to leave too much slack, because as I said, often a muskie is going to hit right when you pause, and if you have too much slack in your line, you could be in trouble when you go to set the hook. So it's kind of a happy medium. You want to you know, give a little bit of line back to the bait, let it really naturally kind of rise back up, but you want to kind of always keep your wits about you too and not have too much slack. All right, so as you can see in front of me here, I got a bunch of kind of down trees, and it really goes all the way the length of the shoreline. Beautiful, beautiful shoreline. So I'm gonna be working this. It's almost like I feel like I'm almost bass fishing here, working all these down trees. But there should be some muskies lurking in here too. All right, well, I've been throwing this phantom for a little while here. You know, and I just actually spent a few minutes kind of scoping out. I kind of pedaled around a little bit in my kayak and was looking at the shore. Haven't really seen a whole lot over here that looks that great to me in terms of like weeds and structure and things like that. It looks like pretty much everything's kind of dying off right now, which is really to be expected this time of year. All right, well, I am all out of time for today. And as you saw, no muskies were caught today, but unfortunately that's just the way that it goes oftentimes with muskies. And this, folks, is why they call them the fish of 10,000 casts. I hope that you liked today's video anyway, and I hope that you learned a thing or two. If you did like it, please give it a like, and also let us know in the comment section below if you want to see more from me on this channel in the future. Now, I personally will be getting back out in my kayak to do some more muskie fishing in just a couple days. So if you want to see more of that, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, Nattie Up North, as well. As I said at the beginning, the baits that I use today are on Shop Carl's, along with a ton of other muskie baits. So if you are an avid muskie fisherman, or if you're new to the sport, make sure to check it out. That is it for today. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. See you next time.